Thank you for having me. Shout out to Brother Payne, Brother King. Hope y'all had a good week.
All right, all right. Arpane, how are you, sir?
They're doing all right, Went to the doctor this today,
Oh,
blood tests and all that kind of stuff. So we'll see in a week. So hopefully I'm expecting decent results.
hopefully all is
I've been
well.
losing weight, so everything's cool. I need to do that every year anyway. I'm at that age. Other than that, thanks, hello to everybody on the panel. I did go to BMU put me on tonight, man. It was wild.
I
It got
saw,
wild.
I saw. I
It got
came in
wild.
there. It
It
was,
got
it
man.
was.
My camera went out. That's too bad I couldn't answer your question, Mr. He said. I'm saying, man, I got too many crazy people over here answering.
It's all good, man. All good.
Anyway, but it's good. It's a good day. It's a good day.
Good, good, good to hear. Good to hear. And the actual King Smith, sir, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing well. I'm energized a bit. Me and my lady just got done streaming on the King and Me show where we talked about dating someone who has kids. And I thought that that
Ah,
went pretty well. We had some good participation and people commenting and stuff in the chat. So to come over there and pretty much every Monday, I jump from that to here is always the highlight of my Monday.
all right. So the King and Me show on Mondays. What time does it start?
We go live every Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern.
7 p.m. Eastern. Y'all. So definitely follow everyone that's up here. I'm not quite sure if Arpane has a channel, but I know he does hop on the panels and gives his perspectives. So definitely, definitely follow us and follow those who are on the panel so you know. Hank will be joining us soon. So before we start, I do want to let you guys know that the show is sponsored by jecreativehosting.com. Use the code of HCM22 if you are starting a new website so they can host it for you. I do see some people in the chat, so I do want to recognize them. Lady no Novoa. Neve
Lady
Navoa.
Navoa. Lady
Lady
Navoa.
Navoa.
What
Lady
up,
Hello.
sis?
Navoa. Thank you so much for being here. Mr. He said is in the chat. Quincy, I do see you. Good evening, good people. He always says that to us. Mrs. She said in the chat, hello, beautiful. Let's go. I also see Pita. Hey guys. Average man, good evening, everyone. Good evening to you. Peter says, hey, I am not that crazy. You sure? I'm just kidding. What's up? What's up? What's up?
What up?
I
What up,
see the
Pete?
actual King Smith in the chat. Tarika, thank you so much for being here. Guys, definitely hit the like button, share this live, as well as subscribe to the channel. So we're gonna get into it. We don't have no mixed message tonight. We ain't reading no messages tonight, child. We just gonna get right on into it, okay? So the first video that I'm gonna show is gonna be the opener of the show, but I do want to ask you guys to be thinking about what your definition of love is. Because tonight we're talking about to love and to cherish, right? We've already done to have and to hold. We've done for better, for worse, for richer, for poor, and sickness and health. And then tonight we're doing to love and to cherish. And as I said before, next week is going to be the final week where we're trying to have the ladies on because we're going to do
The
from
four
this day
stages of love.
forward. I'm sorry, RP.
Oh, I'm sorry. I,
Oh,
I, I, I should have muted.
having them side conversations. So next week we're going to be doing from this day forward until death do us part, and I want the ladies to join us because we know us ladies we're cyclical, and sometimes change is not easy for us and going forward and having that foresight. So we're going to focus on that next week. But for tonight, it's to love and to cherish. So guys, definitely be thinking about your definition of love. Okay.
Block taught me what love was. And so now my ex taught me what love was. My mom, who was in bad relationship, taught me what love was. My homies on the block taught me what love was. And so now I need to renew my mind and get back into the word because God was specific with leaving us instructions on what love is. And if we do it God's way, our relationships will stand. Love is patient. So yeah, I'm dating somebody that's a little bit more immature than me, but because I'm patient, I can wait on her. Love is kind. I'm gonna always treat you well. And when I treat you well and you treat me well, we ain't got no problems. Love does not envy. Who cares who make more money in a relationship? Who cares? I'm gonna celebrate your bag, baby. Cause you may be up today and I may be down and I may be up and then you may be down, but it don't matter cause we together. Both of them coming to one house. It does not boast. So when I do make more money than you, I ain't telling you I pay for everything. No. My wife and I been together 8 years. And because I chose to be her man, I carry the responsibility of being her man. But I'm not finna look her in her face and tell her, oh, you would do that because I do this. No, because love don't boast. I do what I'm supposed to do because I'm her man. And I chose her as my woman. So it's my responsibility to take care of that woman. Woo, it is not proud. I may be solo raw when I leave the house, but I'm Malcolm when I come in. I put my pride at the door. And I humble myself and serve my wife, even when I'm mad at her.
All right, all right. So we listened to his definition of love. And for those who don't know, that definition came from 1 Corinthians 13, 4 through 8. So that's the biblical definition of love, which says love is patient, love is kind, it does not envy, it does not boast, it's not proud, it does not dishonor others, it's not self seeking, it is not easily angered, it keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices in the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. There's another version I want to read because it uses different words. And for those who don't know, I'm an English major and I do love words. I love the placement of words and the use of certain words. And so this version says, this is a message version. It says, love never gives up. Love cares more for others than for self. Love doesn't want what it doesn't have. Love doesn't strut. It doesn't have a swelled head. It doesn't force itself on others. It isn't always me first. It doesn't fly off the handle. It doesn't keep score of the sins of others. It doesn't revel when others grovel. It takes pleasure in the flowering of truth. It puts up with anything, trusts God always, always looks for the best, never looks back, and keeps going until the end. So we always need a basis for something. And I think a lot of people use the word love in the wrong way. And the things that I read, there's no way that you can give love until you are love. And that's my opinion. So love is patient. You can't give patience until you learn to be patient. So I want to hear from you guys what your definition of love is when it comes to being with your spouse or significant other. So, Mr. He said, we'll go with you first.
I love being first. Um, for me, Precious, and I'm pretty sure you heard this before, because when it's circular is typically because it's the most honest and it's true. Love is consideration. That consideration that you have for someone. If you don't like roller coasters, and I say you want to get on this roller coaster with me, and you say, let me give it a, I'll think about it. That's love for me. You don't even have to say yes, but just that consideration of another person, you know, their their desires, their aspirations, their likes, their dislikes, and it transcends into your relationship, the way you represent this person, the way you represent your union, the way you represent your relationship. These things take consideration. Again, we all know that temptation stares all of us in our face every day. But it's the consciousness, it's the consideration of what it's going to do to my family, what it's going to do to my significant other, what it's going to do, to my finances, my well-being, my health, my wholeheartedness, all of these things need to be considered. And I think when you really love someone, when you care about them, you consider them. And if they might not end up on the right side of the scale or not, that's another conversation for another day. But I think that consideration, in my opinion, is love.
I like that consideration. Thank you. Arpain, what is your definition of love?
That's a tough one. I think love is recognition. I think I recognize the person I'm with. I think it needs to be replenished. I think love needs to be like a bank account. You can lean on it, you could dissipate it, and you need to replenish it. And you need to recognize the person that you love for who they are and what your commitments are. I noticed the definitions that from Corinthians. I don't think,
Mhm.
and the one you read, I never heard the word unconditional in there.
Mhm.
They didn't use that word. Uh,
No.
I mean, some of the Greek words for love might help people out too.
Mm.
From eros and agape and familia and that kind of stuff. But it's just recognizing that the person that you're with is somebody that you're committed to, warts and all, and getting to the level where those things don't stop you from being dedicated and committed to the person you made the vows with. But also with a recognition that you have to replenish your love as well, not just in the act of doing, but the act of being and that kind of stuff. So I don't give that much thought to the word either, to tell you the truth. So I have to be honest. So you put me on the spot here. I said, what the hell am I going to say? But I think that
Yeah.
kind of fits. I think that kind of fits for me.
So replenishment and recognition, I like that as well because you're right. Everybody wants to be recognized, and it is a replenishment. Again, you can't give something that you don't have, and so that's where you lean on your significant other or your spouse for because they may have it, they may be full of it to be able to give it. Hello, Hank. How are you this evening, sir? Thank you for joining us.
How you doing, Miss Precious? How you doing?
I'm doing well. I can't complain at all. How are you?
Right on. I'm good. I can't complain. I waste my time if I do.
Exactly. Right. Alrighty, so you're coming in at just the right time. We're right at the beginning. We're talking about our definitions of love so far. Mr. He said it's consideration. Our pain has said it's replenishment as well as recognition. We're gonna go over to the actual King Smith so we can give Hank some time to think.
All right. So I think it was interesting that you asked that question. I talked about this game the last time that I was on, or not this game, but this question for couples or whatever.
Mhm.
And Michelle and I, we always pick cards from this and read it out during the live stream. And one of the questions that we had today was,
Ooh,
at what point did you first learn love, or what person or event taught you about love?
stop
And
it. Because that's one of my questions.
well, it was hard for me to answer the question because I had to think about growing up, like, where did I first get my first thoughts of love from, and figure out how to define my definition from it. So while I heard the First Corinthians version from church,
Mhm.
that was the definition that I grew up hearing. But what stuck to me was, love is the affection that you show towards somebody that you're romantically involved in, on the romantic front, because this is what we're talking about
Let's get
here,
it
like, not
on.
the not the family front or your brothers and things like that, but somebody that I'm attracted to. It's the affection that we show towards one another. So that was how I thought about my definition of love growing up.
Bow chicka wow wow. Can't like look. I ain't talking about my brother or my sister. Okay, this is a different type of love over here. I feel you on that. I feel you on that. How about you, Hank? What's your definition of love?
Man, I I try to kind of explain that to my lady, how men love differently
Mhm.
from women, and to what how I show I love is through my actions, right? And so the definition of love is someone's actions, how they the respect, the the appreciation, uh, you being honest with me. That's showing me you love me.
Mhm.
So
I
an
can get
honest
down with
person,
that.
somebody who's respectful to me, it is my what I consider my definition of love, of with their actions.
I can get down with that. Their actions definitely will speak louder than their words. So I have here love is the part of the vow that signifies a commitment to affection, care, and emotional support for your partner. It reflects the deep affection and fondness you have for them and your intention to nurture and strengthen that love throughout your marriage. So you all gave examples of what love is to you and whether it's showing it, whether it's reciprocating it, whether it's considering the other person. Um But as far as, it says these are the things that you do throughout your marriage. What did you guys do to practice love? Because I'm a firm believer that you go from single, you're dating, you're courting, and then you're married. But there are certain things that you do have to practice before marriage in order to carry out the marriage. Things don't just automatically change, once you say, I do. So, what were the things that you are practicing as far as love, as far as showing that affection, as far as that emotional support? What were you doing before then as opposed to carrying that into your relationship, the deeper part of your relationship? I'll go with our pain first. Uh-oh, I think you're on mute, our pain.
I'm glad I was mumbling and stumbling too, so I'm glad nobody heard me. So let's kind of repeat a little bit of what you said there, because I want to get the.
So
You said,
before you married your wife, what levels of love, what levels of affection did you display or emotional support that made her feel safe to say, you know what, he loves me?
how
Or,
much?
what were you doing to show your love towards her before you guys got married?
I think this might even sound strange. I cultivated a relationship with her parents.
Okay.
Um, yeah, that's pretty much. I mean, I was over our house all the time, and she was still living at home. And there
Mhm.
was plenty of times if she had something to do, I was talking to her mother, I was talking to her father. We used to hang. Me and her father used to talk all the time. I mean, all the time. Now he passed away too soon, and that made me real sad because he was
Mhm.
somebody. Because he was one of those black men who migrated out from the South in that great migration from the South to the North. He led his family out of the South. He had a lot of stories. They wrote books about those people who did that. So it
Mhm.
was it was it was great talking to the guy. So like I said, I mean, I told you when I asked him, to get permission to marry his daughter. But that was one of the first things. She was in my mind. I said, "This girl, I can't let get away." Right, and not so much to her, because we hung out, we were courting. We went right from just meeting to courting, not like
Wow.
dating or anything. But
Yeah,
it was
did
her
all that.
parents. Yeah, I met her parents, and I said, you know what? And then I got her to meet my guardian, my aunt, and stuff, and that was it. All she wrote. That started everything.
So it sounds like you did what Hank was talking about, and you showed through your actions showed her that you loved her because you got closer to her family, which probably was security for her, as well as for you because you want to be good with the dad. Shoot, I mean, if anybody, you want to be in there good with the dad. I mean, of course, you don't really care if the parents like you or not, but for the betterment of the for
No, but
the
I did.
betterment of the relationship.
But
you
I hear.
you
But I did think I did care. I
Right,
did.
right. That's what I'm saying. You did care. There are some people who don't care. Like, I
I
don't
know.
care if my spouse,
Right.
but especially from a man meeting the woman's family, that does show a sense of security. My dad likes him. My dad,
Oh,
thinks he's a good man for me. You know what I mean? So I think in that sense, you definitely showed your actions. I'll go down to Hank. Hank, what did you do to show your love prior to marriage or prior to getting remarried?
Oh man, just certain questions and tests that I definitely made sure I put her through. Um, I talked about before. I keep like $1,000 worth of ones in my home just in case, and so I intentionally pull it out in front of her and recount every last dollar bill in front of her just to see how she's going to respond or take it, or if it comes up missing or situations like that,
Missing.
stuff like that. I would share certain vulnerable things that I went through in my life that I already dealt with, already addressed, but just to see how she responds to it, how she would take it, and would it be thrown in my face as soon as the first time we get into a disagreement or to some type of argument. Uh, little stuff like that, I would do, you know, and how she would take the words of advice, um, even though we're not married yet, but she would still be willing to listen and follow the advice that I had to share with her. So that really, uh, it really won me over, because I'm the type person. It's hard for me to trust you right off the bat, because I'll
Yeah,
sit back and
say
watch,
trust. Hmm.
and I'll examine, and I'll pay attention, and then once I feel like you're deemed worthy enough, then I'll start to open up and talk to you. I'm not gonna just sit there off the back and just come start a conversation. That's not my. That's just not me.
Hmm.
I want to see what I'm dealing with.
Yeah, trust is a huge factor. So I can see why, you build that. And like you said, men love differently, right? They want to know that they can trust their woman. That's a big one. You got to have my last name. Can I trust you? Okay. All right, Mr. He said, how about you? What levels of love or displays of affection did you show Mrs. Harris before you put a ring on it?
That's a great question. I just kind of jumped over the hurdles that were presented. Most specifically were the men in her life. Now that I think about it and reflect, her brothers, popular in Queens and lived a certain lifestyle. Large men, 6'3", 6'4", two and change. So they had a certain cachet, and it was like stay away from my sister, and a lot of men would adhere to that, but
Mhm.
not not me. Um, Her stepdad, he had a certain perception of me, and I had to fight through that. And her dad, helping her uh reconciliate with her dad,
Mhm.
kind of helping her see it from his side, seeing that he was an amazing guy. He just, didn't have money. And in America's eyes, if you don't have money, then you can't be a good father. So, you know, he didn't come around. So helping her see the forest through the trees, so to speak, in that she really seen that, I was down for her, and I wasn't going nowhere. So,
Mhm.
you know, to have the life that she had where the men were a little temporary, not there for not to their what they wanted to do, but what they
Mhm.
had to do. So,
Mhm.
seeing that I was permanent, that I told her that I stand on that I was doing everything, in my power to show her that. I think that kind of showed her like, yeah, this guy really loves me, and it was real.
So that definitely that huge emotional support. She said all I wanted was his time and presence, right? I always say you shouldn't go into something trying to change anybody. I'm not here to change you. I'm here to accept you for who you are as you come, right? So to see all I wanted was his time and presence meant you didn't have to have anything else. And anything else that came extra was a bonus for us, not just for me, but for us. So thank you for that. The actual King Smith, how about for you? What displays of love or affection was there before um, being serious in a relationship, or even if you want to talk about the past relationship?
I'll talk about my current one because
Mhm.
for me, that's a little bit more impactful in that, I had certain viewpoints about getting into a long term relationship after my divorce. Yet, the person who I am, with now showed me certain things. So, similar to what Hink said earlier, for me, I started to look at what the actions were saying along with the words. So I felt okay to do certain actions or just let me just say this, just be myself and not have myself be judged on, and being myself allows me to just be free and open up to you, and if you can receive that, we can rock with each other, and that's a great feeling for me. If I were to be myself in all aspects, and that wasn't something that she wasn't compatible with, then it was what it was. So for me, that was how I showed my love to her, was just to completely be myself and see if it was compatible with her. And it was one of the dopest things that she said to me, that told me that, you know, she was down and she was game too, where she had asked me about something that was important to me. And when she asked me if it was important to me, I said yes. And she looked me dead in my eyes and said, if it's important to you, then it's important to me. But it wasn't just those words. I had connected that her actions in other situations showed that I could trust her with her words, because her words had previously matched her actions.
I like that. I like that a lot. Being able
Yeah.
to be
Yes, indeed.
yourself with
Yes, indeed.
a person. Oh my goodness. That is like the most freeing feeling ever. And I know I'm not a man, but I must
It
say, I'm
is. It is. It's
sure
freeing.
that for a man, it has to be freeing just because you take majority of the workload, and not saying that the woman doesn't, she takes a different type of the workload, but to be free as a man in your relationship, or to be free to be yourself, is a very safe place to be. It's a very safe, it has to be a very safe place to be.
Absolutely.
Women have the opportunity to have safe spaces in a lot of different areas. Well, the main one should be in their relationship, but they take the opportunity to do it other places where men really don't. You guys really don't take that opportunity. I mean, you may have your boys, you may smoke some cigars, you may go play some ball, you might go have a drink or two, but those are momentary. Whereas when you're with your woman, you should be able to be yourself at all times. You should be able to let your hair down. You should be able to, breathe, excel, and not feel like you have to be in performance mode. But like you said, she also was able to help you be yourself by allowing those things that were important to you or are important to you to be important to her. So I dig that. I like that. I like that. Well, I was gonna ask you guys, like, King was talking about the root of love and where he learned love, because I have this saying, from the womb to the tomb, right? So the things that you learn even in the womb, although the woman is carrying the baby can recognize the man's voice. The baby can recognize when the man is around, even in the womb. So from the womb to the tomb means there are things that happen from the womb while you're growing up that shape, how you love and how you look at love. And then it is up to you to determine, like actual King Smith was saying, hey, I learned the church's way, but the way that I feel love is X, Y, and Z. What were you guys' roots in love? Who taught you love when you were younger? And did you deviate from that? Or, is that how you still kind of walk in your life when it comes to that? I think Hank had to step away. Mister, he said, we'll go with you first.
Mine's is kind of a perfect storm of what to do and what not to do.
Mhm,
Like I told you guys, I lost my mom early, so I had that nurturing quality of love up until a point, and then it was more of a collective. My neighborhood, my household, my environment kind of showed me what not to do,
mhm,
and then basketball, and television kind of showed me what to do. Basketball is a brotherhood and a sisterhood. That love, showed me something that was unique. That no matter what color, no matter what you're going through, no matter what you got going on, once you step in between those lines, it's about the game.
mhm,
And that sport, creates a brotherhood. The alumni, the former team members, the teammates, all of these people become your brothers and your sisters, and that was something very pivotal for me. It showed me what family could be, and like I always say on your show, I transcended that knowledge of sports into my family. But that what to do came from television, came from the Cosbys, came from Joni and Chachi, came from, you know, all of the tandems that you see throughout entertainment, whether it was a what not to do or what to do. That's where I learned from, because those healthy relationships weren't in my immediate surroundings and environment. So the Peggy Bundys, the Roseanne and Dan, everybody. I took a little bit from everybody, and particularly Dwayne and Whitley is my favorite. I always say that as well. So,
Dwayne.
just a collective of knowing that you have to live in this life with somebody. I always say, even Oscar and Felix, the odd couple, one dirty, one clean, but you got to coexist with somebody.
Yeah.
I understand people say they don't need nobody, but in jail, when you get in trouble, they throw you in solitary confinement. I don't hear nobody saying, sure, throw me in there, because I don't really need nobody, and I like to be by myself. Like, all of that
Mhm.
to me is just talk. I think you have to coexist with somebody to show that you know how to coexist with somebody, because it's easy to get along with just yourself. So,
Mhm.
that's where I learned my what to do, what not to do, and it was a perfect storm of all of that that showed me what love is and what love can be. Sorry for being so long-winded.
No, you're good. You're good. So you're saying that a lot of it came from media, which fast forward to 2023, what are we seeing in media that really depicts family, marriage, love, commitment? We're not really seeing those things. So at least you got it. It's funny, last Sunday my pastor was saying, I appreciate the era that I came up in, right? So we can appreciate the era that we came up in because it taught us certain things like manners. This generation, what is really teaching the manners? And everything's supposed to start at home, but we know they're getting a lot of things from social media, right? So back in the day, your neighbor could say your son acting up, you might want to get involved, or they got involved because your parents could trust them to get involved. Nowadays, don't nobody care about you. So having that community and having those people in the era that you were in was a good thing for you. Even the media back then was a good thing if you didn't have that family unit. The actual King Smith, you kinda answered it, already, but, I wanted to ask you, how did maybe your parents love and cherish you? How did they show you, love that shaped how you saw it?
Oh man, see that was this is a very difficult one for me to answer. My dad was an over the road truck driver, so
Mhm,
growing up he wasn't home a lot, and when he was home he was more focused on stuff from the church, really in my opinion, than in, I would say, like showing us what love was. A lot of his examples would be, he would start off the sentence, well, the Bible says, and then XYZ. And I'm over here like, I don't like these dollars and those don't apply to me in current form, Dad. Like, tell me what you did, or help me in modern terms understand X, Y, and Z. So I didn't really get that type of thing from him, or that type of understanding from him. And then my mom, she wasn't like a very affectionate mother. Like, I can't really say the last time I've ever heard my mom say I love you. And I used to
mhm,
see other people's mothers say that to their sons and things, like, not saying that that's bad, it's just that wasn't what I got from my mom either. And shout out to her, she watches my live stream, so she's going to hear this.
hey, mom.
But I didn't really get that type of example from my parents. And my uncles would, they'd be like, "Hey, nephew, you have any girls coming around sniffing?" You know what I'm saying? Like, they would kind of say stuff like that. So then they would come, with a little bit of uncle advice,
Mhm,
so to speak, but it was more about the physical aspect and sexuality type stuff than like really romance or anything like that. So similar to Mr. He said, I kind of formed a lot of the stuff that I felt resonated with me by what I saw from TV shows.
mm. Um, so
Hmm.
people that grow up in the church, I grew up in the church, and one thing that is difficult for those who grow up in the church is you are conflicted with doing it the way that they tell you and being who you are and doing it the way that they tell you. And sometimes that can really hurt people because you're not really, you're not learning how to be your authentic self. You're learning how to be like a religious robot. And, honestly, God wants you to come as your authentic self, as messed up as you are, as whatever you think, questions that you have. It's not taught that way. It's not taught that you can just be you in all of your, mess and it's still okay. Like it's still all right. You know why? Because then when you go to communicate with other people, you feel like you can't be the real you. And that's what I actually talk about in my Patreon, being the real you. Because a lot of people grow up with that church background. And a lot of people have church hurt, and a lot of people walk away from the church because it's like, well, you doing X, Y, and Z. You ain't even living up to what is being taught. But God knows that we're not going to live up to it. He don't want us to be too good. He don't want us to be too bad. He wants us to be balanced, but he also wants us to be grounded, right? And so it's not necessarily taught that way. It's not, people are not really seeing the real people because they have this facade, and nobody is perfect, and that's what needs to be taught. And rather than you need to do it this way because if you don't, you're going to hell. Like that's not what should be taught. Like nobody has a heaven or hell to put anybody in. God is the ultimate judge. And so it sucks that sometimes people's minds are warped because they may think that they are doing it in love, but they're not doing it with love. And God is love. And I read the definition of love. So he ain't boasting, he don't have a big head, he don't yes, God didn't say that. That's the that's the series. That's the series that we're in church. So she must go to the same church as me, change church. Because you're right, God didn't say that. There's a lot of things that Christians will put on you that God didn't say. So you do need somebody that is willing to walk with you and be real with you on those things. So you don't feel so convicted about being imperfect.
Hey,
I just
Precious.
wanted to share that.
I actually have an additional question as well. Are you going to get into like what people are seeing now? Because a lot of us here are, I'm assuming, older than 30. But I think what's
Mhm.
also being seen out there from the younger generation, to include even people my age, man, I think that there's a wildly different definition of what love is, and I'm kind of curious if we're gonna get
We are.
into that.
There's a question that I was going to ask
Okay,
about modern times.
I will hold
Um,
my comments for that then.
um, I think Hank had to step away. I don't think he's back. Oh, he is back. Okay. Um, so pretty much the examples of love that you got as a child. How did you learn love, Hank? If you're there.
Hmm.
He said he was back in the back channel, but he ain't came off that mute button yet.
All right, no worries. Arpain,
Oh
did you
no,
go?
what was that question for? I didn't know if it was a question for me. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay. We're talking about pretty much from the womb to the tomb and how we learn love at an early age.
Okay.
And it usually starts in the home. So
So so what?
a more direct question is, how did your parents love and cherish you?
Well, I didn't feel that from my parents, unfortunately. Um,
Mhm.
I felt that from my grandparents. My uncle, by how they poured into me, how they make sure I was well taken care of mentally as well as physically. So that's why I felt the most love in my adolescence,
Okay.
unfortunately.
Well, not unfortunately. I mean, at least you learned it, right?
Well,
But
that's the
it
most
does.
important thing. Yes, yes.
Yeah, it does speak volumes. Now 3 out of the 4 guys we haven't gotten to our pain, but it
Yes.
wasn't necessarily something that was done in your immediate home or with your immediate family. So that does, says a lot. But there are people who have been in their immediate home and family, where they may have had both parents and may not have felt the love that they needed. They may have gotten love, but they may have not been the love that they actually needed. So at least, you got it from somewhere. Arpain, how about for you? How did your parents love and cherish you?
Well, like I said, when I was, my mother was sick for most of my childhood.
Hmm.
Maybe for a good, she passed away. I was 8, so I moved in. She was very good friends with my aunt, my aunt on the paternal side. So she became our guardian. But I can't remember anybody saying they love me.
Mm.
She just did it through her actions, 100%. I mean,
Mhm.
she was like, God bless her. She was the ultimate curmudgeon. I swear. I mean, if they had the word, her face would be right there.
Mhm.
She came home and all the laughter stopped everything.
Mm.
But only it was all love though. She just bit with you. Is your homework done? Before you can have a comment,
On it.
just it's all of this stuff done. Okay, then what do you want? That kind of stuff. So
Mm.
we loved her.
Mm.
But my grandparents were there. And they were all West Indian people. My grandfather, forget it. I don't even know if he knew how to spell the word love. He
Woo.
just, not because he was mean. He just,
I'm so sorry, y'all pain.
huh?
Said I'm
I
so
said,
sorry, y'all pain.
no. What I'm saying, it sounds bad though, because you knew him and my grandmother were tight forever, right? He married her back in the early 1900s. She had a kid. He was the ultimate stepdad. Nobody was stepmom, and they had 8 kids after that. He
Mm.
just like ruled the roost. He was just sitting there. He had the big piece of chicken. He was just, you could talk to him. He would tell you what's going on. I remember watching the Anita Hill. Was it the Anita Hill uh
Clarence
debacle?
Thomas.
Yeah,
Clarence Thomas.
yeah. He was watching that. So I used to watch. I was real young. He was sitting there watching it. I was watching it with him. But it's just so nobody ever said that. I mean, I think what it was, we just had a whole communal household. And whatever love was, living together and sharing the space, that's what that was.
Mm.
Nobody was overly affectionate that way. Uh, I'm trying to think if my first girlfriend said she loved me. I'm not even sure about that. Shit.
Did that heifer
Yeah,
say
yeah.
she loved me?
God damn.
Me too. I thought I was pretty good, man. So I
Well,
can't
when
Our,
the
our,
first
remember
our
time you
who.
pain
hear
sound
it, I'm
traumatized,
curious.
brother.
You
You
got
sound
me
like you was
thinking who was the
traumatized.
first person to say they love
You
me.
got him beat,
You
Hank.
have to go to church to hear that.
God
Got
damn.
him beat.
Jesus loves you. Then maybe that's where I got
But
that
that's the
shit
most
from, man.
important one because only Jesus saves. So I don't even think my
Shit.
ex-girlfriend, my first
I'm
girlfriend
trying to,
said it.
man, I'm trying to think back, man.
Oh, Paige said, now that I think about it, I don't even think, you know what? God damn it.
So anyway, so so what? Then I got, man. You know what? I ain't hate nobody. I ain't hating nobody. It's just the way it is, And my wife loves me, and
I
I
know
got
that's
to.
right.
Yeah, that's about it.
I'm gonna get into some of these super chat. I mean, into some of these highlighted comments, and then we're gonna go into the next video because going to what actual King Smith said as far as today, um, and how this man is speaking. Are there men speaking like this today? But first, we're gonna get to Tarika, where she says, "My definition of love, sacrifice, sacred, and unconditional, and determination."
Hmm.
Black Lexicon says love doesn't have to be inverted, defined, understood, or justified because love is God.
Pause right
Love,
there. Pause right
yes,
there. I was
yes.
hoping that you brought that one up. That's tricky to me to say that. It says love doesn't have to be invented, defined, or understood or justified because love is God. I would really love for Black Lexicon, who's provided some excellent comments, to go a little bit more into that because to say that love doesn't have to be defined, how do you know what you're seeking if you don't have a definition of it? Is the first thought that I had when I read that. So Black Lexicon, if you want to go a little bit more into that, please put it down in the comment section. I would love to try to understand
Yeah.
fully what you mean with that.
Indeed. That's the first thing
Yeah.
that popped in my head is how do I know what it looked like? If I can't define it or understand it, then how do I know what it looks like? Especially a healthy love. You know what I mean? Because that's what I was alluding to, that I really didn't have examples of reciprocation, of love language, of all of the things that we know now in our sophistication. Back, 20, 30 years ago, these things wasn't talked about, wasn't popular consensus. It wasn't, just going around. You had to have a certain je ne sais quoi, like I said, consideration to even want to make a mixtape and put together the right songs to say what you're trying to say, like to please a woman. This is where all of the conversations really stem from. If most women ain't climaxing, and most men don't even care, that we need to start there. Like, you really need to care about another person and them being satisfied and pleased, and before you could go around beating your chest talking about I please all the women that I encounter. So it's a bigger conversation, but I think it all starts from consideration, and when you start to consider that another person is being reflected upon you. And again, this is when my love is kind of like a mirror, because all I could be is a reflection for Mrs. Harris, but I need to be a good person to give her a good reflection. I can't be in the street acting crazy and expect her, to reflect off of me and have this good reflection. It's just, it's really insensitive when you think it's one-sided and transactional and all about you. And sometimes that's where we get. I'm gonna land my plane right there. Sorry for being so long-winded, y'all.
No, you're good. Um, hopefully Black Lexicon will, clarify what he's trying to say there. Because you're right. If it doesn't have to be defined, then how do we know? How do we know what it looks like? How do we know what it should be? That's why I read the definition of what I go by. Now, that's not what everybody goes by, and that's why I asked everyone, what is your definition of love? Um, because if you don't know, how will you know? Like Whitney said, how will I know? She said it. How will I know if you really love me? Okay.
I
Black
mean, or
Lexicon.
love could be me punching you in your head on Thursday so that tomorrow is Friday.
Child, mm-mm, mm-mm. We need to define what love is so we know it's not that. Okay. Black Lexicon says that is not always the case. A good portion of women that I have met could not handle me accepting them for who they were. Some crave correction. Um, I don't know if it's that women crave correction. I said this before about women having the Eve trait. Eve ate that apple. She knew she wasn't supposed to eat that apple, and she ate that thing anyway. She took a big old bite of that apple, okay? All right, and she would then she gonna go offer Adam some. You want some? Women need to be corrected, and sometimes that correction doesn't mean you need to stop doing that. You need to do this. Okay. Sometimes it doesn't mean that. Sometimes the correction mean I'm gonna let you do what you're gonna do until you truly bump your head and it hurt hard enough where you need to be corrected. Sometimes you don't need to tell a woman what to do. You just need to show them how what they're doing is hurting them by not doing anything, not being the protector that you are. Men are protectors. You're supposed to correct, because if not, the whole ship is gonna go down. But sometimes you can't say, "Oh, this is what I want you to do because this is what you're supposed to do, and I'm the protector, and this is what I said." No, it is saying, "Okay, if that's what you want to do, go ahead. You'll learn." Quincy says, "So I have compassion and understanding because I had a really loving community." And that is what we want, to have, a loving community, because nowadays that is not the case. I'm going to play this video of this guy and what he's saying. And you guys tell me if this is what you're hearing nowadays, because I'm not necessarily hearing it from the majority of men out here. I think a lot of men, we talked about this before, are staying single. They are, they're not necessarily going towards marriage. And there are men who are striving towards that, but the men who are doing that because they're doing it.
Okay.
Nothing comes before my wife. I don't play about my wife when it comes to nobody. Nobody. And I stand on that. There was a lot of people that got upset when I said the person that you're married to or the person that you're taking serious comes before everybody. I stand on that. My wife comes before my kids, right? To a certain extent. And what I mean is this: I am not going to put our relationship on hold or the things that make us happy on hold for them, because what's going to happen is they're going to grow the fuck up and have lives of their own. Will I respect them? Absolutely. Do I need them to like or love her? Absolutely not, because they're not dating her. The same thing with the parents, my mom, my dad, my grandma. If you don't like her, that's on you, but you do not come before her. I exchange bodily fluids with her. I split bills with them. I split my heart with them. Nothing comes before my partner. I'm not playing no games. And if you go against them for anybody, this is when you become the op.
All right. So he's talking about, hey, nothing's gonna come before my wife. Not even my kids. But
I
today,
I have no issue with what he said. I don't like the way all the stuff he said, but I have no issue with it.
so do you think that men are headed towards this direction as far as marriage in today's society,
No.
given the atmosphere of what's out there?
Oh no, not at all. I mean, first of all, you got to find a woman who deserves that kind of devotion. I mean, not that there's none out there, but you know what? I think this is what's wrong with the men. I think some of the men are too lazy to look. They got used to this dating app thing and they want to swipe and all this kind of stuff. Back in my day, I had to get my ugly ass out there and get rejected. Those guys don't know how to do that.
That was my point,
Dang,
T.
dang.
Harpain, that was my point.
So you think they're too
You agree
lazy
that
to
all
look?
paint ugly? God damn,
No,
King, you
no,
Oh
keep
my
my
reading.
bad.
god!
No, my
God
bad.
damn.
No, not that.
God damn. Shit.
You did jump
No,
pretty
no,
fast today. He said, yeah, that's it.
no. I got
I
too
don't know
crunk
how
at the
you did
wrong
it, brother.
point. I
Jesus
got too
Christ.
crunk at the
King, how
wrong
you missed
point.
that, man? You was kind of fast on the trigger
Uh, no, hey,
God.
Woo!
it's way too easy to reach in my pocketbook and buy conditional love for a couple of hours. It's way too
Mm.
easy. And I think that the marketplace has made it so that guys are going, man, I can just go with the current market rate of, you know, of XYZ and trick off, right? Get whatever it is that they need temporarily. And if you do that enough times, I don't see how you can come to a point to where you then go, all right, I've done tricked off enough. I want to settle down and get married. Like I hate the term settle down. I want to get married. And I think that we're seeing a lot more of women being comfortable and okay getting their bills paid, getting flued out, having all this stuff done by multiple men. That guys are just simply going, "Psh, I don't need to get married. The going rate is $350 for 2 hours. I'll go with that."
Didn't it used to be $40?
God
Wasn't it?
damn. I thought it was 20 in
Wasn't
the
it?
front and
Hey,
40 in the back.
It
whole
was $40. What
wholeflation,
happened?
wholeflation is real in
Stop
these
moving.
streets.
Hey,
Jesus.
so here's the real
And
thing. I mean, you got evidence,
and
right?
and
You got
people
evidence.
don't want to talk about it, but when you have sites like Seeking Arrangements where it's not that hard for anybody over the age of 18 to put themselves on a marketplace to be rented, essentially, guys are temporarily renting love, but people don't want to talk about that.
So
You
y'all
know,
up here, y'all
you got a
talking
lot of
about it.
guys in red pill
Y'all
rage.
did you name a site, King?
Is that illegal? My bad.
King up there telling on himself,
I
ain't he?
know what, but
Burning down the Carter. Shit.
okay, so Arpain says it's laziness. Actual King Smith said, hey, the convenience is just, it's too appetizing. And marriage is not really appetizing. It's not looking appetizing out here. Is that what you guys think, Mr. He said? What do you think? As far as men going towards the road of marriage and loving and cherishing a wife?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to step in King's role this week and play the role of, you know, um, men are logical thinkers, Presh, and right now it's not a logical move. It's just
Mm,
not advantageous in this time where it's transactional. You know, everybody's looking for what they can be done for them. It's just not the most opportune time. You're not going to find someone organically, you know, looking for those intangibles. If you do, you know, hold on to him or her, because they are a rare breed. You know, I said 2 years ago that it's just people are just not of a good quality nowadays. Celebrities, regular people, everybody. There's not a lot of mature minds. There's not a lot of old souls. There's not a lot of outside the box thinkers. There's no visionaries.
mm.
It's just, you know, it's really not an opportune time to hitch your train onto somebody and then them wake up one morning not happy and leave you, take most of your finances, most of your happiness, most of your legacy, and leave, and then dictate the relationship afterwards. So it's really, if you weigh the scales, and I'm a married man, but again, it was a different time, you know what I mean? And we had different conversations, and we look at ourselves as a different type of person. But right now in 2023, with, you know, booty hole brown.
Craziness, craziness, craziness. Hank, what do you think? What do you think about the minute today when it comes to marriage? What you hearing on your side of town? Are they ready to do it, or not really?
Man, if you're going based off YouTube, there's no such thing as that anymore. It's it's extinct. I mean, if you base it off that, I don't really believe that, because I see it. Guys are still looking to do those things. You know what I'm saying? The guys still looking to make those investments. I mean, guys that I deal with, the more mature crowd. So I mean, you know, I think in real life it's still out there. People still believe in it. Now, whether they willing to uh take that chance, I don't know. You know, that's the uh that's the wild card about it, I guess. You know, I've been through the worst of it. You know, as far as going through the whole divorce thing, I've been through that. But I'm
Mhm.
still willing to get back out again and roll the dice again. I'm willing to do that. I think if anybody can, you know, they would do it. And it's not gonna be I don't think it'll be a hard reach for them. You just got to be willing to make that sacrifice. Be willing to put your you know, your heart back on the line again. You know, it's tough. I'm not going to sit there and say it's the easiest thing to do. It's the simplest thing. It's not that big of a, because it is. Because depending on how your situation ended, you know, it could be a lot tougher to put your trust into a individual again. So
Mhm.
Can I ask you a question, Hank? And just so because you use this word,
Great point.
sacrifice, right? When people use sacrifice in terms of getting together with another person, man or woman on either side, well, I'm trying to figure out what people mean by that. Like you
I'm a,
saw,
I'm a, I'm a, I'm a, you know, y'all. I swear, y'all be in my notes. Y'all be all up in my business. I don't like that.
or
But
so,
I found this clip. I found this clip.
Go on, Penny.
And we listened to Sarita Jakes, right? The first couple of times we did the live. But I took a clip from TD Jakes' lesson that I think he did this yesterday, and it's the title of the message is called "The Principle of Circumcision." Don't y'all? I hope y'all. I didn't hurt y'all too bad by saying that word. But for men, right? It has a I'm sure when you hear the word, you instantly get in pain, right? So he talked about it from a lot of different angles, but the principle of circumcision is cutting away, is shedding, right? So he said this.
Cutting going We don't understand that there's some bleeding and some cutting going on. All we see is the performance, but we don't see the pain and we don't see the price. It is painful to be a good husband. It costs you something to be a good husband. You have to cut your ego back to be a good husband. You have to cut your pride back to be a good husband. You have to cut back your need for reciprocity to be a good husband. It is not easy to be a good husband. Women, you're kind of quiet, but you're going to let this next part.
We're going to save the next part for next week because I told y'all the women coming on next week if they would like to. But we still going to talk about what he talk about the women because that's one thing I like about TD. He'll talk about the men, but he'll definitely get on the women too. It's not a one-sided thing. So yes, I wanted to show that because you said, well, when you talk about sacrifice, what do you mean? What do y'all mean about this word sacrifice? And a lot of times it's not sacrificing of things. Sometimes it's sacrificing of people. Sometimes it's sacrificing of self, ego, and pride. But you guys answer that because that was one of my questions. What did it cost you to choose to love your spouse? We always have to count the cost of things. And I don't think a lot of people have that foresight to say, what is it going to cost me to love this person? And not to say that you got to change yourself and things like that. But there are some things that you should adjust or change or even sacrifice to be with that person.
Get it? Since I asked the question, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if who am I? I don't agree. I think that sometimes people say things are fire for effect. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I think TD Jake said what he had to say because a lot of men look at their relationship and they need to hear somebody say something like that. But I don't agree with what he said. I don't agree that anything I've done to be with my wife is a sacrifice. The only thing I can think of, and I think about this not a lot when in these spaces, is that I can't bang nobody else. That's the only thing.
Well, that is a sacrifice.
No, it's not. No, it is not. It's not a sacrifice not to be able to sleep around. That's not a sacrifice.
Well, no, you
Well, no.
gave
So
up
wait,
your
hold on. Let me
freedom.
explain a little bit. I had a little bit of dating life before I met my wife. Okay, so I have a little bit of stuff, but it's really not a sacrifice not to go cultivate sexual relationships with other women. And at least not for me. Okay, and I think it's a choice. But I don't. Where's the sacrifice? What happens to a person if they dedicate their sexual life to one being? Do they become less of a person? I mean, what do you lose if you sacrifice something? You got to tell me what you gain and what you lose by not doing it. And nobody can give me a good answer on that one. The only thing you can't do is have sex with more people. That's me. Can I travel? Yeah. Can I get education? Yeah. Can I make more money and save more money? Yeah. I mean, I could do all kinds of stuff. I mean, what can I paint? Can I be on these stupid? No, I don't want to say stupid. These YouTube streets with some of the
Let me
panel.
save you. Let me save you all pain before you run off the rails. Don't even worry about it. I got you.
Good evening, sir. This might be
Good
risky.
evening, brother. Good evening, brother.
Might
Be
be
risky.
Welcome to the Real Precious.
Indeed. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Mr. He said.
Okay. I'm gonna jump in on pain. The sacrifice, in my opinion, for me was everything. Everything. My individualism to an extent, and again, all of these sacrifices are to an extent, of course, because realistically, I was going into a union with somebody else. But my individualism, I had to sacrifice it. Me being this individual thinker, spending all of my resources on me, not considering anybody else, that had to die. The ego, the confidence, the bravado, the machismo, the cadence, the confidence, all of those things had to die because another person had to be considered. I can't come off to her the way I come off to everybody else because she's not everybody else. Can't speak to her the way I speak to everybody else. She's not everybody else. Can't use the words that I use for everybody else, so on and so forth. So, to land my plane, I put it like the Joker put it to Batman, or Pain. He told him at one time, you'll never be like me because you're not willing to do what I'm willing to do. I'm willing to sacrifice something that you're never willing to do. So you're never going to be able to make it to the point that I am, because he was willing to delete. And that's what you have to be as a husband and be willing to do as a husband. You have to be willing to delete that individual, delete that juvenile, delete that selfish thinking, delete that only me mindset, delete that living for today mindset, delete that tomorrow might never come mindset, delete that I'll die for you mindset. No, who are you willing to live for? Who are you willing to make corrections for, to do the right thing for, to consider? Because again, we all can stick our chests out and say, I'm willing to die for mines, and you're just going to be a martyr. But not a lot of us are willing to say, you know what, let me think about my family, let me think about my decision, let me think about how I'm moving right now, and maybe I can de-escalate this conversation. Maybe we don't need to talk about this subject right now, guys. Can we change the subject? Because I have a family. What we talking about right now might reflect on my family. So, these are the things that I sacrifice. Even when I sit in these boxes, it's a lot of stuff I'd like to say. But my
Right.
daughter gonna
Okay.
click record, play on one of these streams one day. And there's some things that I don't want. It's a sacrifice. And you might not agree with me, R Pain, but it's more than just jumping up and down on some broad. We all know we can do that, man. Like,
No,
that's
you know
where the
what? I don't
discipline comes
disagree with
in.
what you said. I think I'm glad. I'm glad you said that. Gave me a little bit
My
more
brother,
perspective.
my brother.
I'm still, but whether I call what you just said a real sacrifice, I can understand your perspective about that. But so, give me some food for thought. I appreciate it.
R-Pain, everybody can't come out a good man out the womb. And when I say that, I don't mean that men aren't good men, but there are some men who do need to shed certain behaviors, certain attitudes, certain mindsets in order to be good husbands, right? Like I said before, it don't start just in a marriage. It's something that you have to have a mindset of before you even say I do, because once you say I do, you're stuck with that person and what they come with. And so if they don't come with a renewed mind, you can't expect one just because you said I do. So this might be risky. What would you like to add to the conversation, sir?
And I was listening. I just tuned in. Shout out to y'all. Um, I heard some of the sentiments before Hink addressed the last segment. But I guess I can stick here. I don't think people change. I think they mask. I think people learn how to control certain attributes that are about them, but largely people stay consistent. You just got to control yourself. When the brother Mister he says talking about sacrifice, I just hear manhood in that. You know, that's kind of how it manifests, but it's not easy. I also think men think they are better husbands overall than what they are because we go to work. Like me, I work 70 hours a week, right? And it's applauded, and everybody's taken care of. But I'm not that sentimental, like I'm not that romantic. I'm not that like soft at all, ever almost. Right. And so I can tout myself, right? Because I bring in money. We have a lot of things, right? And so from the outside looking in, it looks like I'm doing a good job. And men will stand on that. But I think TD, and I don't really follow him, but I think I agree with a lot of his sentiments where you got to get in tune with her. And then when you in tune with her, you think you are, get in tune even more. Because that's when you just kind of hitting the surface, So
Thank you. I appreciate you for being hot. We like to be hot over here, honest, open, and
Absolutely.
transparent. And
Well
you
said.
did the thing.
Well
You
said.
did the
no doubt.
thing. Thank you.
When you said hot for a second, I'm about to say pause, but you clarified. So
See?
Yeah, New York City. Pause.
I'm like Precious wilding already, but nah.
No, we like to be honest, open, and transparent. And like Mr. He said, sometimes that takes a sacrifice, right? Because you're being vulnerable with your feelings. But then there's times where you might want to curse somebody out on the panel. You like, you know what? Nah, let me just chill, because that ain't gonna get us nowhere. It's not gonna move the conversation forward. I always say if you ain't got nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all.
Mm.
So I appreciate you guys' perspective. Did everybody go on this one about the sacrifice? And go ahead, Hank.
Yeah, I'm a let Brother Payne speak for himself. As a reformed man whore, such
Ooh.
as myself, to make a sacrifice of not knocking down external cheeks that's other than my lady is a tough task. Temptation is out there. Opportunity is out there. You just got to make sure you're able to, like my man have said, control yourself, turn it away, turn it down, or move forward. Appreciate that someone finds you worthy enough to give up the cheeks too, but at the same time, you got to look at the big picture. Unfortunately, I failed in that area at one time during our marriage, and that's what caused me a divorce. But you live and learn, they say. So you just have to grow from there. So I had to learn to control it twice as much as I do now. So,
Well, yeah.
Thank you, Hank, for letting us know you've been delivered. All right, and you living for the Lord now. So no,
I'm reformed now. I'm a changed man.
Amen. All right. Thank you so much. Dedicated to my children's future for the super chat of $10. They say salute to the panel and the chat, working steadily up the ladder of success. Yes. So Chicago really say you niggas better start moving like Mike Pence out this camp.
That's a good one.
What Mike Pence do?
Ooh,
Hey,
goodness gracious.
Mike Pence,
But
he don't sit in
he
no
he
room
wouldn't be in the
by
presence of a
himself with
woman,
no
let somebody else do
female.
that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wouldn't do it. Smart.
Yeah, he
Oh,
definitely
damn.
protected himself for sure. Alrighty. We have, did I read all those? Yes, I did. All right. And so I wanted to get to this video. I know that, did I take everything down? Okay, there we go. I know that this might be risky. Actually just joined the chat, but I wanted to, or the panel, excuse me. I wanted to show this video. He mentioned like not being sentimental, was it? I don't want to use the wrong words.
Yeah, I would say affectionate, maybe.
Affectionate.
Mm-hmm.
This couple here, they are on this show, and I actually have their cards, but they sit back and forth and they ask each other these questions. And the question was, why do you love me? His wife asked this question, why do you love me? And maybe at some point in time, you guys can do this exercise. It's all about learning, all about growing. And like this might be risky said, once you know her, you got to know her again and you got to continue to keep knowing her. And so maybe you guys can ask your significant others this question, in your own time. But I think it's important to know why, right? We always, when we're little kids and you tell us to do something, we're like, why? We're so curious, right? We want to know. We want information. We don't want to lean on just not knowing and just doing what we're told. Some of us don't. We're like, no, why? I need to know why. And so it's important for us to know why at times so we know the reason to keep going. Your why usually is why you keep going, right? They always, when you read books, you go to leadership conferences, they always say, start with your why. So I wanted to share this with you because he really looks like he got into a space that maybe he was uncomfortable, but he still was able to share his why.
Ask why do?
Simple question.
You love me.
It is a simple question, but it ain't a simple answer. Because of how you love me. It's a very
God.
It's a very spiritual love. I've been through a lot, and you never see me for what I've been through. You know, you see me for the best that I give to the world and I give to my family. And when everything starts to weigh on me, you kind of, you know, you breathe life back into me. That's why I love you. I love you because you're you. I love you because you're you.
So, you know, he was able to say why he loves her. And I wanted to ask you guys this final question before we get to the final thoughts. Do you guys think that cherishing someone is stronger than loving them?
Is that semantics? I
So,
feel
so cherishing someone is love. It is love. But do you think it's stronger than love?
Absolutely. I mean, to cherish is to protect and care for something that is of high value. So you have to deem it highly valuable, and again preserve it. You know, look at any man that loves his classic car, or any man that loves any car for that fact, that he's waxing it, he's
Mhm.
washing it, even when he don't need to be, even when it ain't necessary. But men care for what they love, and if they're not caring for you, you know, you could fill in the rest. But I think cherish is absolutely a little more. And just to reflect on the clip and prepare for next week. I love her because she's my better half. Like that reflection I was telling you about, that's her. And you know, the signs were all there. It makes sense once I seen, you know, the curation of my home, the birth of my children, the lawyer she is for me, having my best interests at heart. And you know, again, the reciprocation she shows. And this is why, you know, I want to take her out and ask her, what can I do better as a husband, as a friend, as you know, we started out as super friends, like in each other's neighborhood, checking out each other's friends, getting each other's demeanor, and acknowledging the respect that we have in our neighborhoods. And we don't come from the favorites of neighbors. You come from Baisley, South Side, Jamaica, Queens, and I come from Bed-Stuy. Like we don't say it just because it's cachet. It's for real. This is where we come from. We were very intentional, and this is why I love her so much, because all the signs were there. Again, you know, Aaliyah was my crush, and Aaliyah is who I'm married to. That's my baby girl. This Pisces, this artistic, this creative, this empathetic, sympathetic, just nurturing, caring, homeschool teacher. Like, it all adds up. It all makes sense, and that's why I love Mrs. Harris. So shout out to you, Mrs. Harris, baby girl.
No, that's right.
mm,
What do you guys think? Is cherish stronger? And you know what? Now that Mr. He said that, I'll read this and then you guys can go, okay? Cherishing goes beyond love and conveys a sense of valuing and treasuring your partner. It implies protecting, respecting, and holding your spouse in high regard. To cherish your partner means to recognize their worth and make them feel special.
where's that from?
Me.
Person, where's that quote from or definition from?
It's something that I typed out.
Oh, well, beautifully written. However, I think you could put the word love where you put cherish, and it'll resonate the same way.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like love is a little bit overrated because it's so fluid and it converts to hate quickly. I think the opposite of love is apathy, not hate, right? Because hate still has a lot of passion in it. But I think I love my wife because of the dedication, right? Dutifully, and she's dedicated. You know what I mean? When it gets real, when it gets hard, she's dedicated.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, love is cute. Like, if you record what Mr. He said and you put it out in the wind, women gonna get moist for sure. Because what he said, it feels good. You know what I mean? but I just feel like that feeling is fleeting, right? So you need dedication more than anything.
Okay. Our pain.
Yeah, like I said love needs to be replenished. And
Mhm.
when I say replenished and nurtured, and I think to cherish somebody reminds you why. That's what I think.
Yep.
I think I hold cherish on a higher plane, right? Because even with my wife, I mean, I have a few other things, even in the vows. I have some things about why I'm with her before just that love, that love kind of thing.
Mhm.
It's important, but I just think you need to keep pouring into it, and you need to look at your spouse, your wife, or if you're a woman, your husband, and remind yourself why you're there. So if I cherish my wife for who she is and the things she does for me, the way she treat raised the kids and all that kind of stuff, it always reminds me why I loved her in the first place. So I put cherish up there high.
Okay. Actual King Smith.
I've been stewing on this one for a minute because I was trying to ask myself, can I cherish something without loving it, and or vice versa? Can I love something without cherishing it? And where I'm sitting at right now, and I'm gonna have to put a little bit more thought into it. I think that you can't cherish something and not love it. I think if you cherish something, you do indeed love it, but I don't think the other way works the same. I still haven't quite worked that out yet, but that's kind of where I'm sitting at right now.
I can agree with you. There's sometimes you can love something without cherishing it, right? Like I can love this hoodie, but I can also, it could also be on the ground and it could stay on the ground and I love it, but I didn't pick it up. But I love this hoodie, but it's still on the ground. If I cherished it, I would hang it up. If I cherished it, I would treat it better. If I cherished it, I would keep it in good condition, right? So I think that you can love something without cherishing it. But if you cherish something, you truly love that thing or you truly love
Well,
that
well, let
person.
me add some precious. You could cherish something, but you could covet it and not
Mhm.
love. So there's people who cherish things that they covet, and so you got to
Well,
be
I
careful
mean,
with that. You know, I,
yeah, I mean, if you're
you know,
serving,
yeah,
a few different masters,
yeah.
you
So
know,
I mean, that's just some thoughts.
you're
So
not
when I
supposed to
look at
covet
doing that
anything.
equation, yeah, say what?
I say you're not supposed to covet anything.
That's right.
So, if
That's
you
right.
are doing that, are you really truly cherishing it in the right way? Is it really going to
No,
bring you,
well, see
you know?
now we're adding stuff to the word cherish, right? But some people actually cherish things that they covet,
Mhm.
and they have no business doing it.
Yeah,
That's all I'm saying.
I
But
can agree with
that's another panel for another discussion.
that. All right. Did anybody else want to speak on the cherish versus love? Which one is stronger?
I don't think Hank.
The Hinka?
Yeah, I think
Nah,
Brother Hink wanna.
I think we pretty much cover that pretty good. So I mean I can't disagree. Other than I can always disagree with my brother All Pain though. He come up with some old janky
Yeah,
shit. But other than
yeah.
that, he good with me.
Mhm, mhm. I'm with you, Hink.
We have Chicago Rilla in the building. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you. He says, I don't know what Thursday show I caught, but you was cooking, Precious. Let me trick off this EBT real quick one time for all the Beta Simpo studs. Revenge off the nerds.
Yeah.
Alrighty, so we're gonna get to our final thoughts, and then we're gonna get out of here. I think this was a great show, guys. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you. I appreciate you for what is it? This can get risky. This might be risky. Thank you so much for joining the panel,
No doubt.
and thank you to those who were in the chat. Actually, before we get to some final thoughts, we'll go through some of these comments really quick. Let me see. Meaning behind cherishing someone, protecting and holding value to them. So Rose says, I would have said you mean everything to my baby. Come over here and sit on my lap, baby, after he done said how much he loved her. I remember every birth celebrated with a cigar, and I don't smoke. Okay. Mr. She says, Mr. He said, you are appreciated and adored. First time here. Well, welcome, RBN. Thank you so much for being here. He says, what's good, Hamp and Hank? SB says, I love you. I cherish you. Interchangeable, in my opinion. All right. This might be risky in the chat. I see you in the chat. Covet. Easy Money Jones says, dope show. I appreciate you. Thank you guys so much for being here. If you haven't already, definitely hit that like button. If you want to support the channel in any way, definitely send a cash app to Michelle 1500. But we're going to close out with some final thoughts. So we'll start with Mr. He said, we'll work our way over until we end with King.
Thank you for having me, Presh. Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. Shout out to the fellas, brother Hank. Shout out to my brother. First time meeting you, but it was a pleasure, sir. Payne, King, always a pleasure, fellas. The comment that brother said that ladies, did he say crave? I believe the word he used
Crave
was
correction.
crave. That to me that was unique because when I think of a crave, I think of a steak that was good that I ate one time at like
Mm,
Ruth Chris, and
yes.
then I crave it because I want it again. So if you had correction and you know what correction is and you know how to do it, and then you get with me and then you not doing it and then crave it, like yeah, no, I don't know about that one, but always a pleasure for being here. Always a great conversation. Always a mature conversation, and I just enjoy being able to come here, express my thoughts, and be received, man. So thank you for what you do, Presh. I always shout you out on my show every chance that I get. I'm
Thank
dropping your
you.
name and telling them to come over here because I admire you, ladies, and appreciate y'all for waving y'all flag unapologetically and doing what y'all do. Brother King, thank you for having me, man, and always a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Mr. He said, I appreciate you. Mr. Hank, your final thoughts for this evening?
Man, real precious, thank you again, like always, man. You done a great job with this I guess
Wedding Vow
I don't
series?
know the what would we call this? What would you call this?
Marriage vow
The
series.
Marriage Vow series?
Yeah, the marriage vow series. I mean, you did a great job with it, and I appreciate you opening up for us men to have the conversation, to share with other men, and not only other men, but allow some of the ladies to get some gems from this as well. So shout out to you for doing that, and thank you, you and Brother King. November's Men's Mental Health Month, man, and I think that's very important. That is very important for us men because people just don't realize some of the things that some of us men go through. I'm gonna say all of us men. I'm gonna say some of us because some of those men, they ain't got no worries in the world because they ain't about shit anyway. So fuck them. Excuse my language. But I'm talking about the men who are on the grind, who's about their business. I'm doing a show Wednesday about being a man. If any of you great men would love to come over and hang out with me for a couple hours, I'll be more than glad to have you. But my final words is, black men, please protect yourself at all times. Do what you got to do to get your mental right. Whether it means you got to sit on somebody's goddamn couch or get in somebody's damn Zoom meeting. Do what you got to do. If that means you got to get in a group of fellas to have that good, wholesome conversation, to unwind, to unload, or just let off some goddamn steam, you need to do what you need to do for your mental. Make sure you get your blood work in order. Go get your A1C check. Get a full physical, not a half physical. Don't just check for hernia and all of that other slight bullshit. Get a full physical. Get that blood work to make sure everything's in order with you. A man of a certain age like myself and Brother Payne, go get your colonoscopy and your prostate check. It's necessary. Colon cancer and diabetes is some of the biggest killers among black men, as well as heart disease. So do what you need to do to keep yourself healthy, and so we can conquer this world one day.
Yes, because she ain't gonna have nothing to love and cherish if you ain't here. So please
know
take
what's
care
right.
of yourselves,
I
okay?
know what's
All
right.
right. All right, sir. This might be his risky.
Yes, ma'am. I just want to say, be careful of your algorithm. You get a lot of confirmation bias because you create your algorithm. So everything you say is heard. I was looking for socks because I couldn't find them. Dead ass. I had wild socks on my Instagram all of a sudden.
You're right about that.
So just be very careful because what you thinking and what it is that you say, it'll be duplicated on on your Instagram. For Hank, it'd be Facebook. You know what I'm saying? So like, just be careful of that. We do a lot of hard things every day that we don't want to do. Marriage is one of those things that is absolutely necessary for our people and our culture. Economics 101 says risk and reward go hand in hand.
Yeah.
Very, very high risk, very high risk. But the award, you can't calculate it. You know, so the nuclear family is uberly important to our people and our culture. So I just want to, make sure we continue to try to perpetuate that as opposed to some of the talking points we constantly hear. So shout out to Precious. Oh, Precious, you was cooking last Thursday, and then what's boy name? He always wear red and all that. On the Thursday show.
Mr. Lego?
You talking about Mr. Ass Eater,
Yeah.
Mr. Lego.
I mean, I've been eating ass since I was 16, but whatever.
Oh
So
my God.
Damn. Lord, have mercy.
Shout out to the goddamn grocery eaters.
Yo,
Come on now, groceries.
Nancy taught me, but Precious,
Yes.
you was cooking and you was about to have not smoking in like a Precious way of having smoke. And then he jumped in. I'm like, yo, put him in the bathroom because I wanted to hear you give her what you
Put
was
him in
going to
the
give her.
bedroom.
Sir? I forget what the segment was, but I was so happy because most of the time you be chilling. You know what I mean? But then I feel like she irks you, and I felt the irk in your voice. And then son jumped in. I turned it off, like, you know what I mean? But shout out to you.
You gotta keep watching. You gotta keep watching. But
I
thanks
know,
for
man.
the support. I appreciate you.
Yeah, she was gonna butter her biscuits. That's what they say in the South. So I just moved to Houston, so I'm trying to pick up some country shit. You know what I mean?
I
But
was just trying to, give my perspective and
yeah.
I don't know when I get on the panels, I have a very one track mind on how I see family and things like that. And so when I hear other perspectives and opinions, I have to realize that everybody doesn't have that one track mind that I have. And there are some people who will not desire marriage, and that's okay because marriage is not for everyone. God even says it. If you don't desire to be married, don't do it because it brings on its own sets of issues. It brings on its own package. You're joining lives. And so I would love, for us to be a community again. I remember the community. I remember going outside to the street lights came on playing and being able to be amongst neighbors and, you ain't got all this killing. Now, mind you, it happens and everywhere you go and things like that. But it's just in a way today in today's society, we have to get to a point where we care about each other again. And that's that's the stance that I come from. And some women don't see that, some women are immature or they grow up in different areas. They don't have the fathers, to be the example. So when I go on the panels, I try to, come from that perspective. But, a lot of people, they already stuck in their ways. So
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but I just want to say out loud for the people in the back, that you always feel authentic to me, Feelings ain't facts, right? We don't know each other, but you always feel that way when you talk and when you up there, when you sit up straight. I'm like, her posture is amazing. You know what I'm
my
saying?
back
So
hurting. My back.
I know,
Y'all don't even know I got a bad back.
I know you. Stevie Wonder could see your back be hurting, but I know you keep that energy, like, you know what I mean. So it's regal would be for men, but like whatever the word is for women, like, So I just want to say I appreciate that.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you. Alrighty, Arpain, your final thoughts, sir?
Yeah, thanks for having us up. I appreciate these conversations about the vows. One of the things about the panels that I like to get to, and even tonight when we were talking on the other network, some people really avoid trying to talk about what potential solutions are to issues, even if you can't figure it all out. It'd be nice to have full-fledged conversations on what if we can get something right. What if, about the community, the Black community. I'm one of those guys that believe there's no saving what we already have. But how do we build a new one? What kind of people do we want to, what kind of people do we want to be part of the new one? And that's not to say that the people from the old community can't graduate to become part of the new one, but they're the ones who have to sacrifice because they don't agree with community.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to hold anybody out, but how do we fix where we are? We have a big class divide in the Black community. How do we fix that? Because even the upper class, so to speak, they ain't that community minded either, that I know of. At least they don't talk that way. You
Mhm.
know, because if they were about it, then they could take some of their resources and start building enclaves that could become new communities. Some are,
Mhm.
but I think that's what needs to happen.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, at least a discussion needs to happen, and we don't have enough of that. That's really what I mean.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you know, real discussions where you can be hot, right? Honest, open, and transparent, and you don't have all the riffraff and all the,
Yeah,
um
arguing at who's at fault, and
yeah,
you know, you can't get past blaming each other. I mean,
right. And I
you know,
always, build it and they'll come. So for one, if like-minded individuals need to build something, right? Because then they'll come, and if
that's
they
true.
don't, they won't. But those who have an eye, let them see, and those who have an ear, let them hear. And I believe that there are people who are in these crowds, in these chats, that are listening on the other side of a screen, that it is helping, that it is, piercing towards them. And so we just have to keep up the good fight, right? We can't get weary and doing the right thing. And so because they gonna get weary and doing the wrong thing, best believe it's gonna happen.
That's true.
So alrighty, and we're gonna end it up with my co-host, the actual King Smith, sir. It is on you.
I love it when people talk fast because sometimes I wait for their brain not to catch up with their mouth and then say something. So when Arpay started talking, he said these stupid, and then he stopped. I was like, I gotta have to laugh for a second. I've talked about in the past how certain spaces I think provide value, certain spaces provide entertainment, and some spaces are able to edutain people, provide some education, as well as some entertainment value, and it's dope. I have been with you, Precious, since you were what, less than 1,000 followers. I want to
Since my
say,
podcasting days, since back
and
on Instagram, before I was even
and
on YouTube.
and I liked what you were doing. You've had some changes to what you've built on your YouTube channel anyway, but you've
Mhm.
made it work in a way that, with me valuing my time, I'm glad that you asked if I was willing to come and co-host with you because I find value in doing this. I've been able to connect with some awesome individuals in these YouTube streets, and I'm thankful for that. Now, I want to wrap it up by offering this. You have a Patreon. Some people have never heard of Patreon, but
Mhm.
I was your second Patreon followers, subscriber. I don't know
Precious
term
Patreon. You are
that
my
they use
second
for it.
precious Patreon. That's what I'm calling y'all.
I was the second one, and you did something that was really unique with me last week. And I want to offer two people, one specifically to Tarika Smith. So, Tarika, if you're still watching,
Oh,
when I
snap.
call you tomorrow, I'm looking at sponsoring 1 month at your $25 level for Tarika if she's interested in it. If she's not, then I'm going to have two spots open. So one is for Tarika. The other one, the first person who would be interested in checking out your Patreon to shoot me an email at the actual King Smith at gmail.com. I will cash out, Venmo, whatever, you
Better hurry
$25
up.
so that
Hurry
you
up.
can subscribe at the $25 level, at least for a month, and check out what the Real Precious is doing over there. Now, this is a low risk thing to whoever chooses to accept this. I'm telling you that even though I'm her co host and I rock with Precious, I am also a Patreon member to her channel, and I think that there is value there as well. That's a little bit more than what she does here on YouTube. And I'm of the opinion that iron sharpens iron. So if anybody wants to take advantage of that, the first email that I see that says, "Hey King, I would like to take advantage of that," I will send you the money plus tax to subscribe, and you can check it out for a month by yourself. That's
I
all I have.
appreciate that, King. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate that. The Patreon is a hot community. I was telling King we did a live Q&A last week. They're going to be at the end of the month. And I was telling him, you know, we in these YouTube streets and we do this content creation, but that's a community where it's a hot community. So y'all might get me here on YouTube, but that's more of an exclusive community where we can be hot, we can be honest, open, and transparent. A lot of times people don't have family that have they back. They don't have people that they can talk to be open about certain things, even about, you know, certain thoughts. You can get so stuck in your mindset and doing things a certain type of way that you may need that different perspective. And with me, I'm gonna keep it real, and it's an unbiased perspective, and it's given with love. You know what I mean? I've always seen myself as someone who just helps. It's just who I am, to be there to, you know, inspire, comfort, and just, you know, a listening ear for those who just don't have it. Because I remember being in that spot. I remember asking myself, why? Why is this happening to me? I remember being angry and not really knowing how to regulate my emotions and talk and get it out and go through a process where I was able to be the real me. If those who don't know, I was adopted and in foster care. So I literally had to get to the real me. And not living for, you know, someone else's, you know, need, and be able to cultivate my needs and regulate my emotions while doing that. So anyone who wants to join the Patreon, it is linked to the top of the chat. And King is sponsoring 2 people, and Tarika, you one of them, child. So you best to email him right away. Ahora, okay? But tonight has been a great show. I really appreciate you guys for always showing up, always being consistent, always being hot, honest, open, and transparent. I believe it is helping people in the chat, whoever does decide to watch this after we air. I believe it does help. I think people look forward to these shows. Next week is going to be the last week of the wedding vow series, and Hank mentioned about men's mental health awareness month, and so we definitely want to do some shows to highlight that. This is the men's panel, and so I do want to get you guys perspectives on certain things, and so I'll line some things up for that. But you guys know what I say at the end of every show: keep it real with yourself so you can keep it real with others. I appreciate you guys. Have a good night.